What if someone told you that Saudi Arabia is pouring $1 trillion into a mirrored city with no roads, no pollution, and no limits? It may sound like science fiction or maybe the setting of the next Avengers movie, but it is very real. Or at least it was meant to be. Today, the line faces massive delays, soaring costs, and growing controversy. The question now is this: will this utopian vision ever come to life, or is it already crumbling? In early 2021, the world watched in awe as Saudi Arabia unveiled something that kind of felt more like a trailer for a sci-fi movie than a real-world plan. They called it The Line, a city so ambitious, so radical in design, that it promised to completely rewrite the blueprint of urban life. Okay, picture this. A single uninterrupted city stretching 170 kilometers across the desert. Just 200 meters wide, but towering at 500 meters tall. A massive mirrored wall slices through the sands, reflecting the horizon like some kind of alien monolith. And inside this shimmering structure, there would be room for 9 million people, all living in what was pitched as a civilizational revolution. Cars? Gone. Roads? Unnecessary. Pollution? Forget about it. Instead, residents would move via ultra-fast underground trains, gliding beneath a pedestrian paradise stacked vertically. Homes, schools, parks, clinics, all just a short walk away. And this wasn't just about convenience. It was branded as a lifeline for the planet. The line would preserve 95% of the surrounding nature, run entirely on renewable energy, and serve as a model for post-oil urbanism. Ambitious! And that was just the start. A ski resort in the middle of the desert? Approved. Floating ports? Flying taxis? Artificial intelligence running government decisions? Robot maids? All greenlit. And it was all part of something even bigger. NEOM, a sprawling mega-region meant to reinvent Saudi Arabia's economy, turn sand into silicon, and lure global talent into a tech-powered wonderland. But here's the thing about futuristic dreams. They look best written down on paper, but reality can sometimes be different. By 2022, the world expected cranes, chaos, and concrete, an explosion of progress rising from the desert sands. But what they got was a trench. Beneath all the hype and Hollywood-grade animations, the first phase of the line's construction began in quiet isolation. Tucked away from prying eyes, a 2.4-kilometer-long trench was dug, essentially the first scratch on the desert's surface, meant to house the city's foundations. Needless to say, it was kinda underwhelming, especially for a project promising to redefine the entire future. Around the site, the Saudi government scrambled to create the infrastructure needed to even attempt something this massive. 6 concrete batching plants were built near the Red Sea coast to pump out the thousands of tons of material required. New roads were laid, water supplies rerouted, and vast supply chains were mobilized, all for one single goal: to make the impossible reality. To speed things up, developers brought in hyperpiles, a cutting-edge foundation technology said to be faster and more resilient than traditional methods. On paper, it sounded like a miracle. In practice, though, even the best tech couldn't outrun time. See, for the line to meet its 2030 deadline, construction would need to advance at a pace of 50 meters a day. That's like completing half a football field every 24 hours. But the actual progress? A slow crawl. And the numbers don't lie either. By 2025, they had barely touched 2.4 kilometers out of the planned 170. That's less than 2% of the full vision after nearly 4 years. Not exactly promising. And this is where the cracks began to show. Because for all its sleek renderings and grand speeches, the line was still just a trench in the desert, and the clock was ticking. When the line was first announced, its estimated cost hovered around $500 billion. A lot of money for sure, but still within the bounds of mega development in the Gulf. Now, fast forward a few years, and that figure has doubled. Today, the line is spiraling toward a $1 trillion price tag, transforming what was once an ambitious investment into a financial sinkhole. To put that all in perspective, $1 trillion is more than the entire GDP of the Netherlands. It's 10 times the cost of the International Space Station. And unlike the ISS, the line doesn't float in orbit, it's still stuck in a trench. So, where's the money coming from? Saudi Arabia is draining its public investment fund, a national piggy bank built on decades of oil wealth, to bankroll the project. The fund, once the pride of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030, is now under intense pressure. Oil revenues are volatile, global interest rates are rising, and foreign investment in the region is cooling down. Behind closed doors, Moody's and other financial watchdogs have started raising red flags. There are whispers of bond rating downgrades and liquidity issues. Meanwhile, investor confidence is shaky, with many asking a hard question: where's the return? NEOM doesn't yet produce revenue. It's not selling condos or collecting rent yet. It's selling a dream, a futuristic mirage. And dreams don't pay back loans. And to make matters worse, there's growing competition. Countries like the UAE and Qatar are luring investors with safer, more realistic urban projects. In comparison, the line is beginning to look like a moonshot with no parachute. Saudi officials still insist the money is going to come, that it's just a matter of time, not if. But from the outside, the line looks less like a smart bet and more like the most expensive gamble in modern history. But beyond the glassy renderings and billion-dollar budgets, there's a darker cost, one that rarely makes the headlines. It's the human cost. Reports have surfaced suggesting that as many as 21,000 workers may have died during the early phases of NEOM's construction. 21,000 lives gone before the line has even taken shape. Most of these workers came from impoverished backgrounds, lured in by the promise of steady pay. But what they encountered instead were 14-hour shifts, temperatures soaring above 50 degrees Celsius, and minimal safety standards. Some were forced to live in cramped labor camps with limited access to clean water and even medical care. The dream of building the city of the future quickly turned into a nightmare of modern-day labor exploitation. And it doesn't stop there either. In the region where NEOM is being built, the Hoitat tribe has lived for centuries. But when their ancestral lands were marked for demolition to make way for the line, they were given an ultimatum: leave or be removed. When several members of the tribe resisted, dozens were arrested. At least one prominent activist, Abdul Rahim al-Huwati, was reportedly killed by Saudi security forces, apparently after he posted videos online decrying the forced evictions. Saudi authorities called it a shootout. Human rights groups called it an execution. Today, international watchdogs from Amnesty International to Human Rights Watch have condemned NEOM as a PR-driven dystopia, where futuristic slogans mask a brutal crackdown on dissent and gross violations of human rights. Behind every steel beam and polished glass panel, there's a story, not of innovation, but of silenced voices, stolen homes, and lives lost in the sand. And the world is starting to notice. From the beginning, the line has marketed itself as the greenest city ever built. A bold promise, especially for a project rising from a desert that's being torn apart, repaved, and refitted with steel and mirrors. On the surface, it sounds revolutionary. No cars, zero emissions, 100% renewable energy. But environmentalists have a very different take, and it starts with the math. To construct a 500-meter-tall mirrored wall stretching across 170 kilometers, you need unfathomable amounts of concrete, steel, and glass, materials with massive carbon footprints. You might say the production and transportation alone contradict the project's zero-emissions branding. And then there's the ecosystem. The Arabian Desert may look empty to the untrained eye, but it's home to a complex web of migratory routes, rare plant species, and fragile animal habitats. By building a monolithic barrier across it, the line threatens to cut off migration paths, disrupt breeding cycles, and kill off local biodiversity that's survived for centuries. And that gleaming mirrored surface, well, it's not just for aesthetics. Experts warn it could reflect intense heat back into the environment, creating artificial heat pockets that distort local weather. Some scientists even believe the line might alter rainfall patterns or trigger localized droughts in the long run. all in the name of sustainability. One ecologist put it bluntly, you can't bulldoze a desert and call it green. Despite its futuristic branding, the line is beginning to look less like an environmental miracle and more like a high-tech mirage, one that reflects not just sunlight, but the uncomfortable contradictions at the heart of the project. When the line was first revealed, the timeline was bold. Phase 1 was supposed to be ready by 2030, a futuristic city rising from the sand in under a decade. It sounded impossible, and now it's proving to be just that. By 2025, only 2.4 kilometers of the planned 170-kilometer stretch will have been touched. And that's not 2.4 kilometers that have been built, just excavated. According to leaked internal reports, the full completion may not happen until 2070, 40 entire years behind schedule. And that's if it ever gets finished at all. Inside Saudi Arabia, the tone has shifted. The once confident rhetoric of revolution and speed has been replaced by quiet recalibrations. Officials are reportedly scaling down expectations behind closed doors. The new, more modest goal? By 2030, maybe 300,000 residents, not 9 million. If you're keeping up with the math, that's less than 3.5% of the original promise. And even that number feels ambitious. The logistics of housing, transit, governance, and basic services in a half-built mirrored monolith remain deeply uncertain. And for a project that once claimed to be the model city of the future, the line is rapidly becoming a cautionary tale in slow motion, one where reality is running far behind the renderings. And the longer this drags on, the more people are starting to ask, is the line really being delayed, or is it quietly being downsized into something no one signed up for? So, where does that leave us? On paper, NEOM is a moonshot, a radical vision to redesign civilization from the ground up. A city with no cars, no pollution, powered by AI and clean energy. It dares to imagine a better future, and that ambition at its core is pretty inspiring. But in practice, the line is beginning to resemble a sci-fi mirage, shimmering with potential but dissolving on contact with reality. The trench is dug, the renderings are flashy, but the cracks, both symbolic and literal, are getting harder to ignore. It's a project trapped between vision and vanity, between solving humanity's biggest challenges and chasing architectural spectacle for headlines. Yes, revolutions take time. And yes, groundbreaking ideas often stumble before they soar. But as the budget explodes, as lives are lost, as nature is bulldozed and promises are scaled down, the question becomes unavoidable. Is the line a glimpse of tomorrow, or a $1 trillion lesson in how not to build the future? History, as always, will be the final judge. But for now, the line remains exactly what it looks like from above, a scar in the desert, still searching for its purpose. Will Saudi Arabia pull off the most ambitious construction project ever, or will the line become a cracked mirror, reflecting the limits of human ambition? If you found this breakdown insightful, subscribe for more bold Megaproject exposés. And tell us in the comments, do you think the line will ever be finished?